Welcome back. Welcome to the Premier Mindset by Premier Performance LLC. I'm your host, Trent Mailer, LCSW, clinical therapist and performance coach, and this is episode 30. Most people think confidence means never doubting yourself, but that's a myth. Self-doubt never fully disappears. The real question is, do you let it define you, or do you learn how to build confidence in spite of it? Confidence isn't something you wait for, it's something you build. Low self-esteem creeps in every time you aim higher, whether it's leading a team, taking a business risk, or standing up for yourself. If you're waiting to feel confident before you act, you'll be waiting forever. The truth is, confidence comes from action, from doing hard things first, proving to yourself you can and letting that proof stack into real belief. Today we're breaking down how to strengthen your self-esteem, how to build real confidence that lasts, and how to keep showing up even when your inner critic is screaming at you to sit down. Quick note before we dive in. This podcast is for education and performance growth. It's not a replacement for therapy or medical treatment. We're trying to expand awareness. It is not replacing what you would get from therapy or medical treatment, so make sure you get that if that's something you need or if it's something you're even curious about. These are good things to do. You can also watch full episodes on YouTube and Spotify, and we have the audio-only version on Apple Podcasts. I'll also be sharing clips across Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and X. So hit subscribe and follow if you want to catch every drop of new content. We have things coming out every day, new podcasts coming out every week. All the links to all the social media accounts are in the show notes, so feel free to find them there. If you've ever felt like low self-esteem has been the wall between you and your potential, this episode is for you. So let's get into it. What is self-esteem? Self-esteem is the overall sense of your personal worth and value, reflecting how you perceive your qualities, accomplishments, and capabilities. It influences your confidence, outlook on life, and ability to cope with challenges. High self-esteem is associated with positive self-regard and a generally optimistic view, while low self-esteem can lead to self-doubt, negativity, and difficulty accepting praise. Maybe these are things you guys have dealt with before. Now, what is confidence? The true meaning of confidence is a realistic sense of trust in your own abilities, values, and worth, independent of external validation, leading to a secure and authentic self-assurance rather than arrogance. It involves understanding and accepting who we are, which fosters a belief in your capabilities to navigate life's challenges and make choices aligned with your authentic self. Why do we need these two to succeed in our endeavors? Confidence and self-esteem are essential for success because they form the foundation of motivation, resilience, and personal growth, which is key to success in whatever field you're chasing success in. While confidence is the belief in your abilities and self-esteem is your sense of self-worth, they work together to shape how you approach challenges, respond to setbacks, and achieve your goals. The crucial role of self-esteem. A healthy sense of self-esteem is an individual's evaluation of their overall worth. It acts as a core, stable foundation for your emotional well-being and ability to navigate life's challenges. It fuels motivation. When you feel worthy of success, you're more inspired to pursue your goals, take on new challenges, and put in the effort required to succeed. Low self-esteem, in contrast, could create a cycle of self-doubt and negativity that undermines motivation, and it might fuel avoidance. It also encourages persistence. High self-esteem provides a secure base that allows you to handle failure without believing it defines your worth. This resilience helps you persevere and bounce back from setbacks, viewing them as temporary hurdles rather than crushing defeats, which is huge because on that path to success, there's going to be many, many failures, so we have to be able to deal with it. It can also improve our relationships. A healthy relationship with yourself makes it easier to form and maintain healthy relationships with others. Self-esteem allows you to set clear boundaries and communicate assertively, which attracts supportive people who reinforce your value. There is an undeniable power of confidence. Self-confidence is a more situational belief in your ability to perform a specific task or succeed in a particular situation. It is the inner assurance that you can handle challenges and navigate uncertainty. It turns thought into action. Confidence is what allows you to act on an idea and take risks. When you believe in your capabilities, you're more willing to step out of your comfort zone and seize new opportunities for personal and professional growth. It improves performance. In sports, academics, and the workplace, higher confidence is consistently linked to better performance. It reduces fear of failure and anxiety, allowing you to focus your full energy on the task at hand. Confident people tend to view difficult tasks as challenges to be overcome, not situations to avoid, kind of like that challenge versus threat that we talk about so often. Their confidence helps them inspire and motivate others, fostering a positive and productive environment. These things can all help set situations up to be more beneficial and successful in the long run. Confidence and self-esteem are mutually reinforcing. Success in a specific area can increase your overall self-esteem, and a healthy self-esteem gives you the foundation to be confident in trying new things. So both of these lean on each other quite often most of the time. For example, a person with high self-esteem has a strong sense of value. If they lack confidence in a new skill, their self-worth remains stable so they can handle the initial failures and keep practicing. As they gain competence and their confidence increases, which in turn reinforces their positive self-esteem, without this foundation, a single failure could be seen as confirmation of low worth, leading to giving up entirely, making it hard to push through the difficulties, the obstacles that are going to show up on our path towards success. Self-esteem versus confidence levels at the elite level. Internal worth, who you are, versus external execution, what you do. At elite levels of performance, self-esteem and self-confidence represent distinct but interconnected psychological foundations. Self-esteem is a deep internal sense of worth that remains stable regardless of outcomes. Self-confidence, by contrast, is a situational belief in one's ability to execute a specific task. For an elite performer, a strong foundation is both crucial for long-term success and resilience. So again, self-esteem is that internal foundation. Self-esteem is a global internal evaluation of one's own value as a person, who you are. It's a source of worth. It is rooted in a person's inherent value, not their performance or achievements, which is huge, because if we're attaching our success and who we are, our worth, to the things we're achieving and how things are going, you're going to struggle and it's going to cause a lot of issues for you. I've had a lot of people struggle with identity issues in this work because of that. And stability. High self-esteem provides an elite performer with the psychological buffer against setbacks. So it helps us not get shaken. It helps us not collapse when things go wrong. An elite performer who lacks a stable sense of self-worth is vulnerable to basing their entire identity on external achievements. We see this a lot with high-level athletes and successful business people, that if they start failing or have a failure that they're not used to, sometimes it crumbles their entire identity. If you have like an undefeated boxer who's going into a boxing match, they might view themselves that they can't be beat, that they're unstoppable, and then maybe they get hit just right and they lose. That might completely shatter that idea, where now maybe I'm looking at it of, I'm not who I thought I was. And this is what we see sometimes when people, kind of fracture that identity they carry with them, and they have a hard time getting back to that place to keep performing at that high level, because that level between greatness and good is not very big. It can be pretty thin, and it's very easy to fall back into good, which is very easy to get lost in the wealth of people that are out there and the talents that we have out there. Self-confidence is the external execution. Self-confidence is a belief in one's ability to perform specific actions and achieve goals, the what you do. It is situation specific. It is not fixed. It's not a fixed trait, but a learned skill that is developed through consistent training, preparation, and past successes. An athlete may have high confidence in their sport, but low confidence in public speaking. It's a lot about what we do. It could be fuel for action. In the moment of elite performance, self-confidence is the psychological fuel that allows an athlete to trust their skills, make quick decisions, and take risks under pressure. Sometimes we need that confidence to just make a decision. We're not always going to have 100% of the information we need to make the best decision. Sometimes we got to make the best call with what we have and then work with it. And when things go wrong, we adjust around it. It also is reinforced by success. The repeated cycle of hard work, successful execution, and positive reinforcement strengthens self-confidence, the brain's reward system. Driven by dopamine, reinforces the belief that future action will be successful. So it pushes us to give it a shot because we believe it could happen. We're a little more optimistic because of that repeated cycle that we get into, and we're reinforcing that success and that it's possible and that we can keep doing it, so we keep going. The elite paradox: high confidence, low self-esteem. It is possible, especially in high performance environments, to have high self confidence but low self esteem. The overachiever. An athlete may receive external validation for their exceptional performance, building their confidence, but still struggle with an internal sense of inadequacy. This can lead to a state of perpetual striving, where they must constantly achieve to feel worthy. They're overachieving all of the time because that is where their worth is tied to, that I am only good if I can do these things. Imposter syndrome. We did a whole episode on that. Such individuals are more susceptible to imposter syndrome, where they feel like a fraud despite their success. Since their self-worth is tied to their results, every failure reinforces that fear that they are not good enough. The synergistic relationship in elite performance. For sustained excellence, self-esteem and self-confidence must work together. Self-esteem, as the foundation, is that strong internal sense of worth that allows an elite performer to absorb the inevitable defeats without becoming paralyzed by self-doubt. It is the solid ground on which they stand during a confidence crisis. Self-confidence is a tool. Confident execution of skills provides the positive experience that reinforces a healthy self-image and sense of competence, further stabilizing the self-esteem that we are building as that foundation. Many high achievers have external confidence but internal doubt. High achievers often develop external confidence but internal doubt due to a complex interplay of imposter syndrome, perfectionism, fear of failure, and a reliance on external validation. They may present a composed, successful facade to the world, but secretly harbor a persistent belief that they are not as capable as others perceive them to be. This psychological phenomenon is sometimes known as duck syndrome, referring to the duck's appearance of gliding smoothly on the surface while its feet paddle furiously unseen beneath the water. An example opposite of that is Jamie Kern Lima, who had a strong belief in herself. She's the founder of Cosmetics, and built a billion-dollar company despite facing many rejections and setbacks, demonstrating that a strong belief in oneself can lead to extraordinary success. Because sometimes the biggest battle with finding success is the ability to keep going. It's a marathon. It's not about just being successful and doing a sprint and finding this one thing and having it blow up. It's not about going viral. It's about building something strong and stable that will last years and decades. To do that, though, we're going to have to face those rejections and setbacks. Things are going to go wrong. So we have to have that strong belief that can really help. And that's what Jamie Kern Lima shows us, is that if you're putting that belief in yourself, that can lead to a lot of that success for you. Let's talk a little more about the dangers of tying self-worth to achievements, wins, or outcomes. Tying your self-worth to achievements, wins, or outcomes creates a fragile and unstable sense of self that can lead to anxiety, burnout, and a fear of failure. Unlike unconditional self-worth, which is based on an inherent sense of value, this conditional form of self-acceptance is dependent on external validation and the latest success. In contrast, a purpose-driven or intrinsic identity is built on who you are as a person, offering a more stable and resilient sense of self, and it allows us more flexibility when things go wrong. The difference between being driven by fear of failure versus anchored in belief in yourself. Being driven by fear of failure is a mindset focused on avoiding negative outcomes, while being anchored in a belief in yourself is a mindset focused on achieving positive outcomes through growth. The key difference lies in the source of motivation. Fear-driven action stems from a desire to escape shame or pain, whereas belief-driven action comes from a conviction in one's own capability and potential. And we can't build these things up. One way to do that is through confidence-competence loops. Essentially, small wins build skills, skills build confidence, confidence fuels bigger wins. The confidence-competence loop describes how successfully completing small tasks like the small wins helps build up our skills, which in turn increases our confidence of those skills. This heightened confidence then fuels the motivation and willingness to take on larger challenges, leading to bigger wins and continuous positive cycle of improvement and growth. It's kind of like creating momentum. So how the loop works. First, action fuels competence. The loop starts with taking action. Even if you don't feel fully prepared or confident yet, we just got to do the thing. We're never going to be feeling fully prepared and competent sometimes. Sometimes we just got to get started. Competence builds confidence. As you practice and gain skills, you become more capable and assured of your abilities. Once you build up that confidence drives more action. Increased confidence motivates you to take on more difficult tasks and challenges. You want to push yourself a little bit more, see what more you can do, which further develops your skills. And then reinforcement. This cycle of action, competence, and confidence repeats, creating a self-reinforcing positive feedback loop that keeps building up and keeps building confidence and confidence and confidence. It matters because it breaks the waiting trap. You don't need to wait to feel confident before taking action. Confidence grows through action. So we have to build it while doing it. It's not going to just show up and then we start. And oftentimes, this is where you see people struggling is they wait for the confidence to show up or the feeling like they're good enough or that they have what they need to do it. Sometimes you just got to get started. And I've had this struggle myself, like waiting on certain things instead of just starting and taking action and letting it build through the work. It also drives growth. The loop provides a pathway for continuous learning, innovation, and excellence. Those small successes release dopamine as well, which is a neurotransmitter that makes you feel good and motivates you to tackle bigger tasks. So you want to keep going. So it kind of helps you build that momentum using our own brain chemistry. And it overcomes the hesitation, kind of that waiting again. By focusing on taking action, even small steps, you can build momentum and overcome the fear of failure, which sometimes can be paralyzing. So how to harness the loop in your own life. First, you want to start before you feel ready. Take the first step on a project or a task, even if it feels uncertain. You're not going to have everything feeling perfect and confident and strong and ready to go. Sometimes we just got to start, even if it feels messy. Take consistent action. Show up consistently and put in the effort, even when you're unsure, as this builds trust in yourself, shows yourself what you can handle and that you can do these things. Celebrate small wins. Recognize and acknowledge your smaller accomplishments to reinforce your progress and build self-belief. It's very easy to brush these small wins off, and I understand it because we want to keep doing the work. We don't want to focus on just the wins, but if you don't shout yourself out for the wins, you don't get the chance to build yourself up from what you're doing, and that's a tragedy in its own. Take advantage of what you're doing, absorb it. And then embrace the continuous learning. View every experience as an opportunity to learn and grow, turning challenges into chances to develop new skills. Look at the opportunity to grow from anything you're going through. I promise there's a way to do it, even if it sucks, even if whatever's happening is really terrible and a hard thing to go through. There is going to be something you can gain from it if you look at it the right way. And I know it can be hard, but try your best. So now let's talk about our brain activity. Our brain activity today is called the confidence check-in. So what you're going to do is take a piece of paper, your journal, whatever you got, and you're going to write down 10 things you're confident in and rate them 1 to 10 of most confident. So your number one most confident thing in your life, whatever it is, could be a skill, could be something in your life, could be a belief in yourself, whatever you want, whatever comes to mind. Whatever feels most confident, put it as 1. Whatever feels least confident of those 10, put as 10. So you want to number it 1 through 10. Just have that list ready for yourself. Once you finish that, once you get your 10 and you have them all rated, I want you to reflect on any pattern or insights you might notice. Maybe you notice that 3 or 4 of your top confident things are all based on the same thing or based on the same subject or topic. Maybe it's something else. Maybe you're noticing other patterns. Maybe a lot of them have to do with other people. Maybe there's a lot of struggle with things for yourself individually. After you look at that, I want you to write down 5 things you want to be more confident in. So after you reflect, after you look at those insights and patterns, you want to put down 5 things you want to be more confident. That could be 5 separate things from those 10 that you want to add in, so you could have 15. That could be working on anything in those 10, like maybe increasing things or getting better at it, improving at it. It could be building up certain aspects of those things, like maybe one of those top 10 confidence skills is, say, drawing. Maybe I'm really confident in my abilities to draw, but I really want to get more confident in my ability to do shading. So yes, I'm good at drawing and I believe in that, but I want to work on being more confident in a specific part of drawing, which would be shading. So they can work off of each other too. But the whole idea is reflecting on that confidence, what you feel confident about. You might be surprised at what's on your list, helping you recognize where they are, just ranking them on that 1 to 10, and then noticing where to grow from here. So we're not just in the static state of this is what I'm confident in and that's it. It's we're looking at that, we're understanding that, and then what? Where do we want to take it? How do we want to grow from there? So give that a shot, see what you think. That could be helpful to help build up more of that confidence in different activities and areas in your life, and we'll keep going from there. Let me know what you think. Now, diving into the brain a little bit more, neuroplasticity is a huge part of the performance aspect. This is how elite performers literally rewire their brain through repetition and exposure. Through repetition and deliberate practice, elite performers physically and functionally rewire their brain via a process known as neuroplasticity. This brain reorganization is what enables top athletes, musicians, and other high achievers to develop exceptional skills, adapt to high-pressure situations, and sustain their excellence over time. The foundation of neuroplasticity lies in the changing connections between neurons or nerve cells when an action, thought, or emotion is repeated. Synaptic strengthening occurs in the neural pathways associated with that activity. More use causes neurons to fire together, which means they wire together, making the connection faster and more efficient. Synaptic pruning eliminates unused or weaker connections, streamlining the brain circuitry to focus resources on the most relevant neural pathways. So we essentially have these like freeways in our brains, these neural pathways. And they help us do things that we've done thousands of times. Maybe it's the way we throw a football. Maybe it's the way that we create a presentation on a PowerPoint, whatever it is. We have these pathways set up that help us get things done because maybe we've done something over and over and over again. So that pathway is well defined and very easy to fall into, which is why it can be hard to change behavior sometimes. So if we do want to change certain behavior that is problematic, that's getting in our way, we would do that through neuroplasticity to help change these things up, to create new connections, more neural pathways, so that we can do other things and have those things be the new default. There are neurochemical changes that occur during this. BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor, is involved. Elite performers can raise their levels of BDNF, a molecule that acts like fertilizer for the brain, and it is also crucial for neuroplasticity. BDNF supports the growth of new synaptic connections and strengthens neuronal signals, which is vital for motor learning and skill refinement. So we could do this, we can rewire these brains through intensive specific training. Elite performers drive these neurological changes to achieve superior function. This is why sometimes when you're performing at these high levels, the practice, the rehearsals, what you're doing is at such high level of intensity because you're trying to wire in these pathways to perform and compete at that high level continuously. So as you get higher on the ladder, the intensity of things ends up going higher as well. This is also what my business does. This is what we're really focused on, is changing those neural pathways. And that's why we like to focus on the tools of EMDR to use and do these things, as well as some other tools and strategies that help make this stuff happen too. And in future episodes, we're going to go over EMDR so you guys get a better look of what that looks like and the research behind that. But this is what we do at Premier Performance, is we're helping people create these pathways they need to find success in what they're doing and get out of their own way and make it just their new default of being successful and living at these great levels of life. That's what we want to do for you guys. We want to help you reach the top highs that you could reach in whatever field you are in. There's also a role of cortisol and adrenaline while we're under pressure. This is why some choke and while others thrive when we are performing at these high levels. Adrenaline and cortisol are two key stress hormones that prepare the body for perceived threats and challenges that come out during that threat system when that's activated. Whether this is a hormonal rush it results in an athlete thriving or a person choking under pressure depends on the delicate balance of timing of these hormones, as well as individual factors like personality and experience. This concept is best explained by the Yerkes-Dodson law, which shows that performance increases with arousal up to an optimal point, after which it declines, which we talked about in episode 25. So make sure to check that out if you want to learn more about that. There's also a lot of imposter syndrome at the top, which is why CEOs, Olympians, and leaders still question themselves. We talked about that in episode 23 if you want to learn more about imposter syndrome, but we'll talk about it shortly before we move on. Despite immense success, high achievers like CEOs, Olympians, and leaders can still experience imposter syndrome due to a combination of internal and external pressures. Their very drive for perfection, combined with isolation at the top and the constant stress of performing under scrutiny, can amplify feelings of fraudulence. Top performers tend to question their abilities in a lot of different ways. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know. High achievers constantly push into new, challenging territory, and as their expertise grows, so does their awareness of how much more there is to learn. This can create a constant feeling that they are not as competent as others believe. There's also pressure to be infallible. Leaders are expected to have all the answers and project unwavering confidence. This creates a difficult dissonance with their private doubts, making them fear that any mistake could expose them as a fraud. The visibility of their roles only increase this pressure. There's more eyes on you. Success is attributed to luck. Imposter syndrome causes high achievers to minimize their accomplishments and attribute their success to external factors like luck, timing, or the hard work of others. This prevents them from internalizing their own achievements and building genuine confidence as they're pushing it off to other people or other things. Another dynamic that's pretty tough is the loneliness of leadership. For many at the top, the opportunity to confide in peers diminishes. There's not many peers there. This isolation can lead to internalizing their doubts rather than normalizing them through conversation. Even when positive feedback is offered, leaders may discount it, wondering if it's sincere or not. You get that feeling of maybe people are saying this so that I like them or so that I do something for them, and then they're trying to just give me something instead of actively being a support that I can lean on. We also have an issue in our society of comparing highlight reels, especially with high performers. High performers often surround themselves with other highly successful people. However, they only see their peers' public accomplishments and not their private struggles, such as all of us. This creates a distorted perspective that makes them feel like they're the only one with insecurities, which isn't true. They're very common. They're kind of everywhere. Trust me, I hear about it all the time. And this is what I tell my clients too, is a lot of people think they're the only ones dealing with things just because we tend to keep it to ourselves because we don't like to open up about our biggest struggles. I get to hear about it. And, I love hearing about these things. I enjoy that. But I also get to see a completely different perspective of these things because of how many people open up about these struggles and how similar they are. We all are dealing with a lot of the same things. And the sooner we recognize that, I think the sooner we can come together and understand that we don't need to beat ourselves up and how comparison can be the thief of joy. And with the age of social media that we're in, I think that is something we need to start working on because it is messing with people and it is causing real self-esteem issues because we are viewing others in other situations in really unrealistic ways, and it's messing with our own self-esteem and our own ability to handle things. High achievers often set impossible standards for themselves as well. This goes back to the perfectionism side. When they inevitably fall short on these self-imposed, unrealistic goals, they interpret it as a failure and evidence of their inadequacy. Sometimes we push for things too far out there. And it's not a bad thing to push ourselves and to drive for things and to try to get stuff done. But if it's too far and it's unrealistic and we're relying on that self-esteem to be connected to getting things done, well, once we start failing, it's going to start crumbling that self-esteem right away and you're setting yourself up for failure. There's also big stress in rapid promotion. For some, a quick career ascent creates a feeling of inadequacy, as if they don't have the experience to back up their new, more senior role. This can also affect Olympians who quickly rise to the top of their ranks of their sport. It's almost like a kind of a form of imposter syndrome of I don't have what I need, or I'm not good enough, or I shouldn't be in this spot. Sometimes we need to have that experience to feel like we deserve these roles, but sometimes we got to trust that we've been thrust into the role for a reason and that we belong there. And that we can gain that experience at that role while we're doing it. It doesn't have to be just a lead up or a build up to it. Social comparison theory at high levels. Why comparison shifts from keeping up to staying ahead. At high levels of success, social comparison shifts from keeping up with the Joneses to staying ahead of the Smiths, due to a variety of psychological and social factors. For the elite, the objective is no longer to match the average standard, but to maintain or expand their relative standing within a more exclusive peer group where the stakes are higher and the comparisons are more intense. It's that motivation for self-enhancement of like, I want to do more, I want to keep climbing, I want to keep growing. This is partly why people reach these high levels of success in the first place. So it's not a bad thing, but we got to be careful of how it can become toxic. Social comparison theory proposes that people have a fundamental drive to evaluate their abilities and opinions by comparing themselves to others. We like to see how we're doing based on how we feel versus other people in similar situations. At the lower and middle levels of success, this is primarily a tool for self-evaluation and self-improvement. For the elite, the motivation becomes more focused on self-enhancement, a defensive tendency that guards against psychological impact of downward mobility. We're trying to stop ourselves from losing status. That's the threat here. That's the worry. When individuals reach a high level of social status, they have more to lose. This creates a stronger aversion to downward mobility or the loss of their high-ranking position. There's more fear there. It feels like I've gotten this far, I can't go backwards. We see this a lot when people lose jobs sometimes too, that they're not willing to take a step down or look at different levels of things because they had reached a certain level and they don't want to take that step backward. They're afraid of that downward mobility. And there are actively people that will stay unemployed for months, if not years, because they don't want to take that possible step towards downward mobility, even if it does give them more options down the line. Going back to social media, it distorts success. Comparing highlight reels to your behind the scenes is never going to be honest comparisons of what's going on. We have to recognize the toxicness of it, and we have to use it the right way if we are going to use social media. If we are just using social media to see what other people are doing and compare ourselves to it and ask ourselves, why am I not doing that, or why are they doing that thing better than me, it's going to just tear you down. It's not going to help you build up anything successful. If we want to use it to get inspiration or to learn new things or to connect with people or grow a community or put something out there, that's going to be a little more helpful. So we have to be aware of how we're using these things. If you are a little unfamiliar with the issues of social media, and I know we talk about it a lot in society, but if you want to dive into it a little bit more yourself, there's a movie out there, a documentary called The Social Dilemma, where they dove into a lot of the background and behind the scenes of how these things are working and how they're happening. And that awareness, that understanding might help you create a plan or a path of how to use these things for yourself that's going to be a little more successful. So these are tools. They can be very toxic if not used the right way. They can be very helpful, and they can build an empire for you if you're using it the right way. So it's not necessarily about just getting away from it, but we got to use it in a helpful way. We can't let it break us down. And with that, it's good to take breaks from it so we can reset, pull back, and really see what's going on, make sure that it's still working the way we need it to, and reflect on how it's going. We've got to check in with ourselves. If you're not, things are going to fall off the rail, and it's going to create problems for you before you know it. There is research that we've done on failure inoculation, which is repeated exposure to setbacks which build resilience. Failure inoculation is a concept supported by research in analogous to biological vaccination, where gradual repeated exposure to manageable setbacks builds psychological resilience. Rather than being protected from adversity, individuals become stronger by learning effective coping mechanisms and adapting to challenges. Research shows that people who experience stress at intermediate controllable levels rather than at zero or constantly high levels are better able to cope with future adversity. So you got to start at the high, or not at the high levels, at the medium kind of levels of this, where it's intermediate, it's controllable, it's not too intense, so you can build up your abilities and slowly grow that comfort zone so you can handle more and more and more, so we're better able to cope with that future adversity when it does show up. You're building confidence through progressive exposure to pressure, which involves intentionally practicing difficult situations, starting with smaller, more manageable stressors and gradually increasing the intensity. This approach, similar to desensitization in therapy or exposure therapy, allows you to acclimate to stress and to learn to manage your responses, ultimately building resilience. We talked about this a lot in episode 28, the mental resilience episode. So make sure to check that one out too if you want to know more about that. Deliberate practice and skill stacking to grow confidence. Deliberate practice and skill stacking are complementary strategies for building confidence by systematically improving your abilities. While deliberate practice refines a specific skill to a higher level, skill stacking combines multiple skills to create a unique and valuable competency. Together, they create a positive feedback loop of competence that directly fuels your confidence. So we want to build these things up. We want to stack skills on top of each other and really create a system that operates uniquely from anyone else. And that's going to put us into a point where we can be successful with what we're doing. A lot of this goes back to that 10,000 hours rule. The idea that if you do something for 10,000 hours, you can become an expert in that field or in that thing. So a lot of this goes back to practice and that deliberate activity of doing. We have to do the thing. You're never going to become an expert or become successful with something if you never do it and just think about it. You have to do the thing. Get those 10,000 hours. Whatever you want to be highly successful at, do it as much as you can. You want to be a public speaker? Go speak as much as you can. You're going to get better at things. You're going to grow the more you do these things. You have to get started on those 10,000 hours to build that up. We can also build confidence anchors. These could be routines, rituals, or symbols before big moments to help us continue that confidence and get the things done we need to do and be successful. A confidence anchor is a routine, ritual, or symbol that triggers a desired emotional state, such as confidence, focus, or calm on demand. By intentionally creating a link between a specific action and a confident feeling, you can mentally and physically prepare yourself for big moments like presentations, performances, or competitions. So let's talk a little bit about how to build confidence anchors for yourself so you can do it on your own. Building an anchor is a process that involves recalling a past experience of confidence and linking that feeling to a physical trigger. So the first step is identify your desired state in a past memory. Determine how you want to feel. Before you begin, clearly define the emotional state you want to access, such as confident, calm, or in the zone. Recall a peak moment. Think of a specific, vivid memory when you felt that exact emotion intensely. Use all of your senses to re-experience that moment. See the scene. What did you see? What was happening? Hear the sounds. What did you hear? What was going on? Feel the sensations. How did your body feel? How was it operating in that moment? Relive the feeling. Let the feeling of confidence grow as you relive that memory. In a lot of ways, it's kind of like a mindfulness or a meditation type aspect where you're kind of putting yourself back, time traveling, and going through that moment again. So relive that moment. Focus on those sensations. Focus on all those experiences that come with it, because that's going to help us create more anchors to continue to do that in the future. After that, we want to choose and set your anchor. Select a unique physical gesture. The anchor should be a gesture you don't do often so that it isn't accidentally diluted. Examples include gently squeezing your thumb and forefinger together, tapping your chest a specific number of times, adjusting a ring or bracelet on your wrist, whatever you want. Set the anchor at the peak of the feeling. As you re-experience that confident memory, apply your chosen gesture at that moment the feeling is most intense. Hold the gesture for several seconds, and then repeat the process. This is to strengthen the association, so we want to repeat the recall and anchoring process 5 to 10 times. Consistency builds a stronger link between the trigger and the feeling. Then we want to test and reinforce your anchor. Test your anchor after setting the anchor. Stop thinking about the memory, then perform the gesture and see if it brings back the desired feeling. If the feeling isn't strong enough, repeat the process, go back to the memory, implement that gesture, and keep associating that gesture with that memory, because the idea is we want to eventually create a point where we can do the gesture and it brings back the feeling even if we're not thinking about the memory, so we can access that feeling kind of on demand. We want to practice and reinforce it. Moving forward, whenever you experience a new moment of genuine confidence, immediately use your anchor to reinforce the association. This strengthens the anchor over time and creates a stronger and stronger anchor that you can continue to use. It doesn't have to be a one-time thing. Build this up over your life. Use it before your big moment. When preparing for a high-pressure event, perform your anchor to activate your confident state and focus your mind. So use those anchors, help build yourself up. They're going to be helpful for athletic performance. They're going to be helpful in business because confidence is a big part of performance. And we have to be able to access that confidence, and having a gesture or something that we can do or something we can tie it to that can build us up can be really helpful, really powerful. Flashback to a memory that made you feel confident and gives you that feeling that you're looking for, whatever that emotional state is. Find a gesture that you like, practice it while reliving that memory, Keep doing it until you're able to create that feeling from just the gesture alone. And then you just keep re strengthening it and reinforcing it as you go through your life and as you go through these struggles. Visualization and mental rehearsal is super helpful. It is used by Olympians and Navy SEALs to mentally rehearse future successes, which primes the brain and body for performance by stimulating neural pathways and creating familiarity with complex scenarios. By practicing scenarios in their mind, they build confidence, manage pressures, and improve the likelihood of successful execution when the actual event occurs. We talked a lot about this in episode 24 when we went over visualization and mental rehearsal. So if you're interested in diving deeper into that, go back to that episode and check that out. But it is a very powerful thing that is actively used by a lot of high performance in our society today. Confidence cycles, why even champions go through peaks and valleys. Even champions experience peaks and valleys in confidence because it is a dynamic, not a static trait. This fluctuation, known as the confidence cycle, is driven by a feedback loop between action, competence, and belief, which is subject to both internal and external factors. How the confidence cycle works. The relationship between confidence and competence creates a virtuous cycle, where one feeds the other. Building confidence. Action drives competence. A person takes action even if they are not fully confident. Through this process, they acquire the skills and experience needed to become more competent. Competent builds belief. As competence grows, it increases a person's self-belief. They feel a greater sense of capability and think, I can do this. That belief then fuels confidence. The strengthened belief creates genuine confidence. With this newfound confidence, the person is motivated to take on bigger challenges and even more decisively, which then repeats the cycle. Losing confidence. The cycle can also spiral downward. A setback or poor performance can cause a person's confidence to plummet, which can make them hesitate or play cautiously. This happens a lot with athletes after an injury, is they don't trust their body the same. They're not playing at that full speed. There's that hesitation. Sometimes they get in their head about it. This lack of action prevents them from building confidence and reinforces that self-doubt, such as, I can't do this, or my body can't handle it. So if we are going through a struggle, if we are going through an issue, we can rebuild things. We just got to be careful of that spiral happening in a downward fashion and not getting too caught up in it. So let's talk a little bit about how to rebuild confidence after failure, injury, or burnout. Rebuilding confidence after a setback requires a mindful approach that addresses the root cause of the lost confidence. This can involve focusing on mental and physical self-care, reframing your perspective on the experience and setting realistic, achievable goals. Be regaining confidence after the failure. A significant failure can shake your belief in your abilities, but you can overcome it by reframing your mindset, kind of looking at it differently. We want to embrace the fail forward mindset. Instead of dwelling on the negative outcomes, focus on what you can learn. Ask yourself questions like, what could I have done differently? How can I apply this lesson to my next attempt? We also have to forgive ourselves. You must be honest about your mistakes to learn from them, but fixating on them will not help. Forgive yourself for your part in the failure so you can let go and move on. We need to grow from it, not get stuck on it. And we have to also separate our self-worth from the outcome. Remember that one failure does not define your identity. Your worth is not tied to your success or setbacks, but to your character and your behavior. Start with small wins. Set micro goals to build momentum and remind yourself of your capabilities. Small, consistent actions reinforce that you can trust yourself to take action even when it feels uncomfortable. Celebrate those small wins and let yourself focus on those things to build yourself up. And talk to your inner critic. The negative self-talk that follows a failure is a survival instinct. Give your inner critic a name and talk to it as a separate, not so helpful person to manage it more effectively. That creates a little bit of space and it feels like it's not as personal and it's a little easier to not take it on as part of your identity. Someone who really was good at this stuff was Jim Carrey. He used his unwavering belief in his dream of being a comedian to overcome significant challenges, including being homeless with his family, and ultimately achieved widespread success. So we can go through struggles, we can have a lot of things go wrong, we can have hardships. Those things aren't necessarily bad, but we have to keep that belief there so we can achieve these goals, achieve these dreams. Because at the end of the day, if it was easy, everyone would do it. These things we're talking about in here with the premier mindset, they're not easy to do, but that's why we're chasing them. That's why we're pursuing them, is we're trying to do things that aren't easy because it's going to set us above others and put us in a place that others aren't willing to get to. So we have to be willing to dive into that. And Jim Carrey is a great example of that. The myth of permanent confidence. It's normal for it to fluctuate, like we talked about. The concept of permanent confidence is a myth because confidence is not a fixed trait, but a skill that fluctuates based on a variety of internal and external factors and can be different from literally day to day or minute to minute. Even the most successful and self-assured people experience periods of self-doubt. Recognizing that these ups and downs are normal is a key part of building true long-term resilience. We can't fight them, we have to accept them. They're there, don't resist reality. The balance of ego versus humility in high performance. The balance of ego and humility is crucial for high performance, where ego provides confidence and ambition, while humility fosters self-awareness, learning, and collaboration. An unchecked ego leads to arrogance and limits growth, whereas unbridled humility can lead to a lack of self-assurance. The sweet spot involves cultivating self-awareness to leverage ego's strengths while incorporating humility's ability to seek feedback, value others' contributions, and focus on collective success. Leadership confidence. How your belief in yourself sets the tone for your team. A leader's belief in themselves creates a powerful ripple effect that directly influences the attitude, motivation, and performance of their entire team. A confident leader projects self-assurance, decisiveness, and resilience, which is contagious and inspires others to follow their vision. Conversely, a lack of confidence can cause teams to feel uncertain and disengaged. You have maybe dealt with this before when you had a boss that just didn't feel like they knew what they were doing, or you could just feel that they didn't trust themselves or have confidence in themselves. You probably have noticed that before in some way, in some point of your life. Maybe a coach, maybe a boss, maybe a teacher, maybe something else. But when we feel that, we notice it. It's not something that's just hidden. You can't just fake it. You have to have that confidence yourself, and it does spread. It is contagious to the rest of that team. A leader's confidence affects a team in several ways. The contagious conviction. Confident leaders inspire their teams with conviction and belief in a shared vision. This motivates team members to give their best and creates a dynamic, high-performing work environment which is needed to reach high levels of success. Resilience through challenges. Confident leaders are more resilient and bounce back from setbacks with a positive mindset. This sets a resilient tone for the entire team, fostering perseverance and an optimistic attitude toward obstacles of we can handle this. Improved communication. When a leader communicates clearly and with conviction, the team is more likely to understand and align with the vision. This leads to greater assertiveness and transparency, which helps to build trust. Encourages innovation and risk-taking. Secure leaders create a safe environment where team members feel comfortable sharing ideas, taking risks, and pushing past their comfort zones. This fosters innovation and initiative. Promotes psychological safety. Confident leaders are secure enough to admit when they don't know something and seek expertise from their team. This authenticity strengthens relationships and creates a safe space for collaboration as it focuses on the strengths of collaboration instead of trying to pretend like one person has all the answers. True leadership confidence is grounded in self-awareness and competence, not arrogance. When confidence tips into overconfidence, it can have destructive effects. A great example of confidence is Theodore Roosevelt. A famous historical example, Roosevelt overcame a sickly and timid childhood by exercising, reading about courageous men, and developing a deep personal conviction that helped him become a strong leader and president. So we can learn about these things by seeing other people do it, whether it's learning and reading stories about them, seeing it in action, working with them specifically or directly, or something else. This stuff is built. It doesn't just show up. And we've seen that over and over again. And this is another example that Theodore Roosevelt built these things out from what he was doing, from the convictions he made, and what he learned. You're not going to just get it. You have to go after it. We can also leverage post-performance reflection, wins and losses, to reinforce growth. Post-performance reflection on both wins and losses is a powerful tool for reinforcing growth by building on successes and learning from mistakes. A structured approach helps internalize lessons and builds confidence and resilience needed for future challenges. Mentorship is also huge. Mentorship, coaching, and peer groups can accelerate self-belief. It does this by providing emotional support, offering different perspectives, promoting skill development, and creating a sense of accountability and belonging. Each dynamic has a unique function in boosting a person's self-efficacy, the conviction that they are capable of achieving a specific goal. Serving others, being a mentor, leading teams, can also boost our own self-esteem. Serving others through mentorship and team leadership boosts self-esteem by providing a sense of purpose, validating your skills, fostering positive social connections, offering opportunities for personal growth, and more. This dynamic, known as the helper's high and generativity, creates a positive feedback loop that reinforces your self-worth and confidence. So don't be afraid to help other people. You're going to get stronger and better at what you're doing with what you're showing, because in a lot of ways, you don't fully know something until you teach it to others. So don't be afraid to do that. And if you want to, if you feel fairly confident on something, try and teach to others, see how it goes. You might learn that you're not as confident as you thought, or you might increase that confidence in your abilities on it. Boundary setting is a high-level skill for protecting self-esteem. Boundaries are huge. Boundary setting is a high-level skill for protecting self-esteem because it requires a deep sense of self-awareness, personal advocacy, and respect for one's own needs. When you set and reinforce boundaries, you communicate to both yourself and to others that your time, energy, and well-being are valuable. In contrast, a lack of boundaries can lead to resentment, burnout, and diminished sense of self-worth. It essentially protects our own peace. So don't be afraid of boundaries. They might be hard to put in place, but they are going to help us in the long run, and they are going to protect you from a lot of difficulties. We can also reframe failures as feedback and losses as tuition for success. You're going to have to go through losses. You're going to have to go through failures. It's going to happen, I promise. We talk a lot about that on episode 26, so check that out if you want to, just dealing with failures and setbacks. Failure is data at the end of the day. You need it to grow. You're never going to reach these high levels of success without going through failure. And if you look at failure as like a personal attack or more of an identity of who you are, you're not gaining anything from it. You have to take from it and learn how to grow from it. We have to take it as data. It is just letting you know what happened. So learn from it, work with it. Don't be afraid of it. Don't run from it. So going back to leaders and how we run teams and companies based on that leadership, authenticity beats performance all of the time. Leaders who try to fake it often lose credibility. And this is my warning to anyone who's in a position of power. Be yourself, be genuine, be authentic. And if you don't have these things, let's build it up. But if you're trying to fake it, you're going to lose these things. It's not going to work out in the long run. It might be a short-term relief, but it's going to lead to long-term problems. Authenticity beats performance in leadership because it cultivates genuine trust, fosters psychological safety, and aligns actions with values which people intuitively recognize. While a leader who fakes it might gain short-term results, their inauthentic actions ultimately erode credibility, harm team morale, and stifle innovation. At the same time, if we get caught in any of this stuff, it's going to erode trust pretty heavily for the entire team. And people aren't going to believe us, and they're not going to believe us on kind of any front, because if they catch us in a lie or creating a false truth anywhere, they're going to think it's happening everywhere. So even if you're doing it in just one part of your life, trying to fake it till you make it, sometimes that can help. But in all honesty, if we can just be genuine and authentic, that's going to build more confidence in your team and yourself. And it could be draining, and there's a natural disconnect by doing it because you're disconnected from yourself. You're faking what's actually happening instead of being honest with yourself, which is why it's so draining, because it's kind of putting on a mask. And wearing a mask can take a lot of energy and a lot of time because you're constantly on edge, trying to keep this image up in a way that people accept it. And you're trying to prove something instead of just being you and letting people take from it as they want to. And with that, there's usually that fear of being found out, fear of being caught. What if they see me? What if they see that what I'm doing isn't real, or that I don't actually believe in this? It's a lot of that imposter syndrome stuff. So as hard as it might be, and while I understand trying to put out an image can be very helpful at times, the best thing you can do is be your authentic self. It just is. In anything that you're doing, you got to be you. You can't hide from it. You can't try and pretend you're something else. It's not going to feel good. It's not going to lead to good things. Just be you. And if you feel like who you are isn't where you want it to be, let's build on that. It doesn't mean that's just the end of it and it's the end of the story. We can build up things. That's why we're talking about this. This is why the premier mindset is a thing. Is I want to give you guys the tools and the strategies to create this, not fake it. So don't fake it. Let's actually build it. I know it takes more time, but it will be worth it in the long run. We can also build confidence in uncertainty when there is no playbook. We don't know what to do. We have to just react. It requires a fundamental shift in mindset, away from controlling outcomes and toward embracing adaptability. Instead of waiting to feel fully ready, you can take deliberate steps to find clarity and take action. We have to be flexible. There's going to be things that go wrong, and we're not always going to know what to do. You have to be willing to be flexible to work with it, not against it, and find the success you're looking for. And you can build confidence in handling that uncertainty. I had to learn that skill quite often as a therapist because I don't know what people are going to come in to talk to me about. I can have plans, I can have things that I have set aside of this is what we're going to talk about or work on, but I have no idea what people are going to come in and what just happened in their life. And there's oftentimes, so I come in thinking that we're going to talk about one thing and then something happened in their life in that last week where we're talking about something completely different now. So we need that flexibility, and you can build it up, but you have to put yourself in that uncertainty and give yourself the chance to adjust and be flexible. You have to embrace that adaptability. The role of reputation and credibility in sustaining confidence levels at the elite level. At elite levels, reputation and credibility are essential for sustaining confidence, and they are built on a foundation of competence, integrity, and consistent action. Consistent because if we stop, it's going to fall off. Anything you don't do, you eventually start to create extinctions. You got to keep doing the thing. Whatever you want to keep, you got to keep alive. So you got to keep working on it. For leaders, institutions, and professionals operating at the highest level of business, politics, and other fields, these qualities determine their ability to attract talent, retain trust, and navigate crisis. A positive reputation creates a benefit of the doubt that protects against setbacks, while a damaged reputation can cause even minor issues to escalate into full-blown crises. So you can actually build up reputation and credibility through self-esteem and confidence that can protect you from setbacks and failures as they're happening. Not completely, not forever, but it can act as almost like a shield to better manage these things and not have it blow up as badly as quickly. So build up that reputation and that credibility, work on building up that self-esteem and that confidence. You're going to see a difference in what you're doing. You're going to find a difference in the success you're able to find. We are helping you find that premier performance by creating that premier mindset so you can reach it. That's the goal of this. Some of this is hard, and I get that, and I know it's hard, and I know it's not easy, and if you're struggling with these things, reach out to me. We can work together specifically one-on-one focused of how you and your goals can be reached and how we can specifically set up a plan to do that fits for you and your life. Because that's the goal of this, is to tailor it to people specifically. I'm doing it in a broad way through the podcast because I'm trying to reach as many people as possible with it. But if you want that specific tailored work, that's what we do one-on-one, and that's what we're good at. That's what we specialize in. So that's what we want to focus on. So now, before we get out of here and finish things up, a couple questions for you guys to reflect on, and I want you guys to send me your answers on any social media site or directly if you want to, and I'll put that information towards the end of the episode if you want to reach out to me that way. So when you win, do you attribute it to skill, luck, or preparation? It's the first question. What do you attribute it to when things go right? Is it your abilities? Is it just luck? Is it how you prepared for it? Is it something else? When you lose, do you blame identity, such as I'm not good enough, or do you blame process? I need to adjust. I need to do this differently. How do you tend to deal with losses when you look at it? Is it focused on the identity of you, or is it focused on how you did the thing? Third question. What small risk or bold move could you take this week to strengthen your confidence? Kind of going back to that confidence list we did with the brain activity. What could you do right now to build up that confidence this week? Whatever it could be. And then last question, do you measure your worth by what you achieve or who you are becoming? So it's a little bit deeper. Is it about the external or is it about the internal? Be mindful of those things. Write those down, think about it a little bit, send me your answers on any social media site or send it to me directly through email or phone. I would love to hear from you guys and hear how this stuff is going. And this is a great way for me to check in with you guys and see how you're thinking and viewing these things. So check that out, see how that goes. It's also kind of cool because it lets me know who's making it to the end of these episodes sometimes too. So let me know. It's nice hearing from you guys. Resilient minds, premier results. Recognition is the first step. We are building you guys up to see what issues are there, seeing what things are short so we can build them up and strengthen them and reach the things that you want to reach in your life. If you find this helpful or you think someone could benefit from it, you know someone in your life that struggles with belief or confidence or their ability to handle things, share this episode with them. Send it their way. Our goal is to help as many people as possible, and if we get this out into more and more people, if we have one person or every person that listens to the podcast send it to one person, it's going to really grow in some awesome ways, and we'd love to see that happen. So that would be awesome if you could. Even if you're not sure people would listen to it, just send it their way and see what they think. Maybe you just say, hey, I hope you get a chance to listen to this. Let me know what you think later. Maybe they listen to it, maybe they don't, but they might really get something from it. If you yourself got something from it, leave us a review. We love getting those reviews. They're helpful for us. It helps us see what we can work on. And again, it just helps us expand our reach and get it to more people. And that's the ultimate goal, is just to give more people more tools to find success and be successful. We think that there is plenty of success to be had in the world, and we really want people to reach that greatness and see that happen, which is why we like staying connected to everybody and why we're putting these things out there. I make it a point to give you actionable tools to find success in your life. So let me know how it's going. I love staying connected. I love hearing the stories, the successes, the failures, the disappointments, anything in between. Keep me in touch. Keep me in the loop. I like knowing what's going on, and I'd love to help out however I can. I just want to be a resource for you guys, so don't be afraid to reach out. And you can reach out in a couple different ways. You can email me at tmailer@premierperformancereno.com. My last name is spelled Mahler. You can text or call me directly at 775-561-0056. We have the Instagram or the TikTok, both with the same name, which is premier_performance_Reno for both of those. We have the Facebook page and LinkedIn page with the same name, which is Premier Performance LLC for both of those. And then we have the Twitter or the X account, which is @Premier Reno LLC. And then our website, www.premierperformancereno.com. So check us out. Get in on these communities. We're going to keep growing them. We're going to keep putting stuff out every day, and new podcasts come out every week. And we're going to keep growing, keep putting out tools for you guys to grow and be successful in your life. You want to get in on those communities because you don't want to miss out on any of these things coming out, because we do have new things coming out constantly. Next week, we're going to jump into interpersonal effectiveness, which is working with other people, being effective in the relationships in your life. And it's more focused on communication, working with people when we're finding success, working in teams, and all those kind of things. We will talk a little bit about relationships in general, like romantic and friendships, but it will be a little bit more focused on just the communication aspects and skills and all those things involved with finding success and working with other people well, more effectively. So try these things out, use that premier mindset to find that premier performance, reach for those highest levels of success, and don't be afraid to take that leap of faith towards it. You're not always going to feel 100% confident, but you will grow along the way. So put yourself out there, see how it goes, go have some fun, enjoy your week best you can. If there's anything you need, don't be afraid to reach out to me. I'd love to help however I can. I love hearing from you guys, and we will keep going next week. So I hope you guys have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon.